The International Blind Cafe 18 Plus presents Conversations from Booth 6666666.
Order up.
Is this the one for booth 6?
Yep.
The InternationalBlindCafe.com welcomes you back to Booth 6. Last time in the booth, we met with an old friend and discussed how new blindness can affect our family and friends. This time in the booth, the fellas will examine how accessibility for the blind has evolved in entertainment. So, Jason, what's one way that you access entertainment? And maybe what's one thing that you're glad you didn't have to face in blindness?
Well, I tell you, Scoot, for sure. When I was sighted, because as we all know, I've only been blind a matter of like 5 years. When I was sighted and you'd get the audio description, like, I don't need that on there, man. What am I doing? And I live by audio description now. I wish I had learned to appreciate it even before I went blind, because you can turn audio description on and go do your dishes. You can go do other housework. You can do anything in the house. You could turn your back on the TV and lay there and almost have a nap while you're listening to the audio description. Audio description on TV and movies is the greatest thing ever. And I've really learned to appreciate it as a blind man. And I've really learned over the last 5 years, or observed over the last 5 years, the leaps and bounds that the streaming services such as Netflix and Disney Plus have come in describing their audio. Like Disney, for example, has really come a long way in describing their old classics, like the Herbie the Love Bugs and the bed knobs and broomsticks. Like, it's been really cool. So as the guys come into the cafe, we're going to kind of address some of that. And I tell you, an old favorite from last season is going to drop by, and he's really seen an evolution.
Oh, yeah, I think I know who you're talking about. And if that's the case, we're talking about accessibility for clay tablets. So,
Absolutely. So, hey, Terrence.
What's going on with you, man?
Get on in here, brother.
What's going on with you, man? What's going on with you,
man?
Not much.
You've been blind all your life, man. I know when I was a kid on Saturday morning, I used to love watching Saturday morning cartoons. But I had the privilege of being sighted, and I know you were born as a blind man. Like, what did you do as a young person on Saturday morning when the rest of us were watching Smurfs and Astro Boy and all these wonderful things going on?
Well, listen, man. First off, lots of imagination. I watched more action cartoons because you can kind of identify the destruction. You'd be like, that sounds like a building. Yeah, it sounded like they drove through a window. It sounded like he fell down a flight of stairs. Pretty much as a kid, man, lots of imagination. Because at that point, especially in my case, right, I was raised by older people. There where I was not going to get my grandparents to understand Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That just wasn't going to happen. So TV then was just that you sat down in front of it, you used your imagination, and sometimes you sat close to it or turned it up so you could hear footsteps and try to get as much context as you could, right? You know, as much audio and acoustics as you could, because that's all we had. See, I joke with you guys about being blind babies now, because if there's a time to be blind, y'all picked a good one. Y'all picked a good one.
Well, I know if I get close enough to the TV and I can see the faces, the biggest thing I can see is the teeth, and they move like in that old stop action film, right? So they go up and down, but there's no transition between the up and down, up and down, up and down. And if people got a darker complexion, it's hilarious. But anyway, I
up and down.
Yeah. There's no transition with the disorder I have. it's the funniest thing to watch. But I got to be like 4 inches from the TV for this to happen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Hey, there's Eddie. Eddie, you missed out last. You missed out last week when Craig was in. Man, he missed you. So Craig says hi.
Yeah. I'm sorry I couldn't make it there, but yeah. But I'm here today once again.
How about you, Eddie? How do you absorb entertainment today? I mean, with audio or when you're watching sports or any of that good stuff.
I'm with you. If I do watch sports nowadays, watching on TV, I'm sure you all will back me up on it. It kind of stinks because the TV announcers don't give play-by-play. So if you're at someone's house, you have to bring an old school Walkman with an AM FM radio in it.
What's that?
And yeah, those old tape player thingies. And I'd listen to the game through my headphones while people are watching on TV. So that makes sports more enjoyable now because you can play-by-play on the radio. You know what's going on.
I listen to my local NHL team using my Amazon Alexa device and a local talk radio station. Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, but I'm with you with the audio description in movies. For like the past 20 years, I wasn't really a big movie buff at all, watching them all the time. But now, past 4 or 5 years, has been getting a lot better. And like you say, more platforms have audio description. Like you said, Disney and Netflix, and definitely made watching TV a lot more enjoyable for me. And I'm glad they have it now. But I still like the old school, going back to 30s, 40s, and 50s when you could find it, which we do in the Discord group with the old time radio show that we broadcast on Mondays with the Lone Ranger, Johnny Dollar, or all those other people. Those are old school, enjoyable things that are still good to this day to listen to.
Old time radio hour.
Yeah, old time radio. Yep, old time radio.
Yeah, when I was a long haul truck driver, I listened to a lot of old time radio. Yeah, and it's really cool. As much as being sighted as a truck driver, of course you got to be sighted. You still got to do the imagination theater, and as you're driving, you got to listen to. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely.
And the gang's not complete if Tremaine's not coming over here with a big load of fries and gravy. I hope he's going to share.
Listen, he act like he don't know where the table is.
I thought he was outside on the cell phone talking to somebody before.
Oh, he might be previous.
Take him a few minutes. Yeah.
It might take him a minute or two. But there's Ken. Ken. Remember Ken? Ken hasn't been around for a while, but Ken, you remember way back when Nero played the fiddle as Rome burned. That's the entertainment that you buddy.
Let me get my sandwich and my Pepsi. Yeah, they didn't describe it to me either. I missed out on all of it. All I could do is smell the smoke.
Ken is as much as most people don't know. Ken's a couple days older than the rest of us, and Ken as much he can relate to Eddie's comments about old time radio. Before the show, we were talking a little bit.
Yeah.
As far as the evolution of entertainment goes, Ken, what did you do back before? I know you probably had a TV as a young man. You're not that old.
No,
But you were talking about old time radio.
I remember the house before TV, and I still remember the name on the radio was called Constellation. That was the name of the radio company, I guess. But we would listen to the radio during, right after dinner at night, and you'd have regular programming just like you do with TV, only it would be radio. And it would be like the Lone Ranger and Red Skelton, and some of the scary stuff and some of the funny stuff, and it was really And you had to sit there and listen because you had sound effects people, and some of the sound effects would be really good. Some of them would be really strange, but it was pretty good. And then when we got TV, that's when I learned that I had to sit on the floor right in front of everybody so that I could see the TV. And it was interesting, black and white, and we only had 3 channels. I remember some of the old original TV shows, like I Remember Mama, and old shows that just never made it, Lucy and Desi, and Queen for a Day, and it was interesting because I couldn't really see and comprehend a lot of it, but what I could see and comprehend, I really enjoyed.
Well, but at the same time, it's almost like the old radio shows, and moving to television was a step back for the blind community, because everything's described on the old radio shows. Because we've listened to, we have the Old Time Radio Hour on the cafe, the International Blind Cafe.
Oh, yeah.
And like I said, when I was a driver on satellite radio, I would listen to the old radio shows, and they're described. When you listen to Johnny Dollar, or you listen to The Shadow,
that's true,
and many others, you really knew what was going on without having to see it. And TV without audio description,
the actors and actresses would come and go, and you didn't know. They'd either enter a room or exit a room or do something out in the yard or something. But unless you were following it very closely and had some sight at all, you wouldn't know what's going on. You're right.
Hey, what's up, y'all?
Hey,
he made it. I was just at the counter. I was at the counter arguing with them over my steak sandwich, and they told me some old man came up there and gave him $20 for the last steak sandwich. And Kim, what kind of sandwich that you got?
I got a pastrami and cheese. I told them to give you a steak sandwich, but being from Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah, I hear you, man. You say it's pastrami, but it smells like steak from over here.
Yeah.
Just,
So Tremaine, we're just sitting here shooting the breeze about entertainment as blind people. Like, how do you absorb your daily entertainment, like your television or your sports content, or what do you do, man?
Okay, funny thing is, I don't really like watching sports, but when I was married to my first wife, she was a huge Pistons fan, so we watched a lot of Pistons games. And surprisingly enough, the commentator on the Pistons game, he did very well with play-by-play. And so I didn't mind watching it, but then a couple times we actually had tickets to go out to the game. And sitting at a basketball game when you're blind is extremely boring, because all you hear is the you know what I'm saying, they run up and down the court. You don't know nothing's going on. But TV itself, you get lost. TV itself is so amazing. Like, I remember back in the day, and I'm not as old as some people in this room, but in the early 2000s, they hadn't really rolled out audio description like that. It was rare that you found a movie audio description. And then they came out with the talking cable boxes that made it a little bit easier for you to even decide what you wanted to watch on TV. And then that's when the market, I guess, must have picked up for blind people, because they started releasing audio description on everything, and just about everything, man. I love it. Even my sighted friends, they love it. They find the value for it. Like, man, you don't know what this do to me, man. I can go in the kitchen, give me a burger, give me a beer, and I still know what's going on the TV.
Yeah. But you know what? But that's the thing with it. A lot of stuff that has come about to benefit us, I think it was done out of convenience for sighted folks. Like the talking clocks, the whole talking clock thing. The talking clock had large numbers. It wasn't necessary for the lower vision per se. It was for the elderly. It just benefited us in the long run.
You're right.
And now when you look at it, descriptive audio description is another way for you to multitask and be productive in your life. Like remember
Not only
when Audible came out, right?
Yeah, not only that is the whole voice activated thing that wasn't designed for blind people to avoid having pushing buttons. It was designed for a lazy sighted person who didn't want to go through looking through the menu.
Hey man, remember the clapper? Y'all remember the clapper? That was just an expansion on the.
Y'all have brought up. Y'all brought up another subject too. Now, when I was a young kid, if I wanted to read a book, I had to register with the Library for the Blind. I had to get a special record player, and they would send me these big records.
Yeah, for you it was a record player.
In these metal containers, and all you ever got was Alexander Scourby reading the New Testament, or Alexander Scourby telling you how to grow a rock garden. Nothing was current. If there was a current book out there, you never got it. But because the baby boomers started getting older and losing their sight, if you'll notice, the bookstores all of a sudden started carrying books on tape, so you can listen to a book while you're driving. It was the AARP crowd that got us, and that's when I learned. If you can't get it with your group, find another group that's just as good as your group. See if they'll go along with you, and that creates a demand. And now you got Audible. That I'm sure Audible was not created for people who are blind or visually impaired, but
no, it wasn't. It was created for sighted people who just wanted to listen to a book or something while they were doing something else.
We get a lot of benefit.
Well, Ken, Ken, to your point, when I was a long distance truck driver and I drove to Canada and the lower 48, it was one thing to pick up a book that was 15 hours long and 7 tapes or whatever. And it was cassette tapes, because I've been doing it that long, in Pembina, North Dakota. And that would take me as far as Miami, Florida, because I'd listen to the book that long and it would cover the distance instead of listening to the radio stations fading in and out or whatever. It was a form of entertainment. It worked my brain, and then it eventually became Audible, and Audible is wonderful as a blind person. But
amazing.
You're right. It was something that came up as a consumer product that the blind people benefit from on the other side. So, hey, if it works,
right. No questions. Works. Just take it and run with it.
Yeah, no. And not only that, but if you look at those books from the early, and there's nothing wrong, thank God for the Library of Congress, first off, right? And the people that volunteer their services to read those books for us. But with the greater interest in it, books have changed, right? Tremaine and I have read several Star Wars series, and when we read them, when you started off reading them in 05, 06, it was different. You pick up a Star Wars book on Audible, it has the full sound effects, the cantina in the background, the ships taking off. The fight scenes are hilarious. They're like, people they're starting to revert back or come back around to the days of the old time radio.
Yep, that's exactly the way it is. It's more the way they're making the books now. Like you said, it's reverting back to the old time radio where they're putting the sound effects in there. They got the different voices and all that stuff in there.
Well, definitely, you can get a book read by a single reader or a full cast read. It's amazing. You pay more for the full cast read, except on Audible, everything's worth 1 point.
Yeah.
But
another thing, though, they have honestly, I think they have started including the blind community in certain forms of entertainment, and I mean that because here lately on video games, they've designed them directly for the visually impaired. I recently just got a chance to play the Mortal Kombat 1 that came out in 2023, but it was designed from the beginning to be visually impaired friendly. From the moment you turn it on, they give you the option to turn on the accessibility mode. From the out, like as soon as you turn it on, and accessibility mode on there, it's amazing. It breaks down the audio description of the cutscenes. It reads the menus. It gives you choices of setting up sound effects so you can know what you're doing while you're playing the game. And it's just, that's one of the things they literally, like I said, they're starting to think about, hey, this blind community has money as well.
Well, to your point, Tremaine, I got to, my son here has the Xbox, and he's such a good kid, he went and got the new Forza. And the Forza is another one that had a very huge blind development. And it has an accessibility development team behind it, and as a former driver, I love driving and driving cars and driving trucks and driving, and the driving component, as much as it's hard to learn how to drive by audio cues. There's really a huge it's a big step in entertainment where blind people can all of a sudden start gaming.
Yeah, like I said, I think that they're starting to realize that blind people want to game as well. So they're starting to think, like, let's develop this game to help these blind people game. Because, like I said, the Mortal Kombat 11, that was when it came out before that, it had some accessibility, don't get me wrong. But like I said, this time they totally out the gate designed it for the blind person. Like, from the beginning, from the moment you start the game the first time, it's asking you, do you want to turn on accessibility mode? It's giving you the options to set up your screen reader. So when they had the little cut movie scenes in the game, it's describing it to you.
We're about to find our way into a whole nother genre. Into both of your point, even with the cable companies now. Like my first experience with it was a couple of years ago with Comcast here. The fully accessible cable box. And a lot of things, it went from us having to tell the cable box to do this to full guide interaction. You could actually get your cable box, get your remote, you turn the service on, and you can see what's happening right now, what's coming up. You can read the guide. You can set up your DVR. Like, come on, man. Like, what? Like, it is... It makes you want the surround sound system again, man.
Terrence, to your point, Eddie, when we're in rooms with you, Eddie, like we sit and chat, and like every day with like this group here, we chat every day, and there's lots of times when Eddie, we hit. You can History Channel, and
I'm watching TV while people are talking. Right, I'm checking the channel.
Right. So you experience this interactive guide. Tell us how it's working, man.
It works good. I just press the button, the talk button, and I talk into it. And it's like when you said History Channel or Discovery Channel or Travel Channel, whatever, TNT, and you'll say it into the remote quietly. But I get you guys hear me think, and
we hear you over there
changes the channels, and then I can kind of hear the background noise, and see if something's on here, and sometimes if something good is on, I'll the channel in the room that we're talking and just half listen and watch my TV show. Like,
you can also do that with a movie. Like, you can pick up your remote, press the talk button, and say, the name of a movie, and if it's there, it'll pop up.
Yep.
And
Ken, to your point, that's come a long way since the Roman Colosseum.
Back then we used to have to buy tickets, but now it's a lot different, and it's in color now too, not just bloody red.
Man, look here, man. Descriptive movies were limited to started with in the 80s, and so at one point, descriptive movies were stuff that you had to. If you wanted to watch a descriptive movie, you had to watch stuff, in our case, that was a minimum of 15, 20 years old. It was either that or... Remember the first movie theater we went to, dog? She took us to that IMAX movie. And it was a good idea, but it was terrible. It was a pretty sounding British lady with this warm, soothing voice. They had us in these reclining leather seats with these headphones on, and the movie was about whales.
Yeah.
We went
and that was some good sleep. Right. That was some good sleep that day.
Man, listen.
We've got an IMAX here, and the early IMAX movies were really strange movies.
But that's all IMAX was in the old days, man.
Yeah.
Movies about whales, movies about roller coasters, movies about jet airplanes, movies about... I remember in high school they took us to a freaking Rolling Stones concert, and it was a movie about Mick Jagger's lips, 3 stories tall.
And see, back in the day,
that was scary.
I've dreamed of those.
back in the day, early 2000s, you know, this is when Blockbuster was still very popular. You go into Blockbuster and there's hundreds of titles. Then they have like 12 audio described movies in there. And that's it.
It was like it was always Star Trek Rathacon, the Search for Spock, and something else.
Yeah, it was always some older movie too at that. Like, and then like I said, over time, the audio description has come tremendously far. Like,
well, I have to say this: Disney has done a fabulous job audio describing most of their new stuff.
Yep,
including the whole Star Wars catalog, or most of it.
Yep, they've done an excellent job. Netflix is very accessible with their movies.
Netflix has done a fabulous job. And with 2024 movies such as Rebel Ridge, starring, what's his name? The guy from Miami Vice is the corrupt sheriff.
Oh. Okay.
Don Johnson, right. I just watched it. I've watched it twice now.
I just watched the movie on Hulu, Descriptive, Paramount Plus. Like people, Prime Video, Prime. You know, they're
now, you say Prime Video. Prime is good, but they're not good at it. Let me tell you a situation that happened. For my wife's birthday, she wanted to watch the Bad Boys 4 movie. Okay, so it wasn't out for you to buy, but you can rent it. So I rented it. I rented it from Prime Video, and for some reason, Prime Video didn't have the audio description on it. So I looked on Apple TV. And Apple TV had the same exact movie to rent, but they had the audio description on it. So I had to call Amazon up like, I need a refund. I just brought a movie. I need a refund because y'all don't have the audio description on there.
They're good for it.
Because there's the other one. Apple TV, they audio describe almost 100%.
When they launched their entire, to your point, when they launched, they had us consider it, and it like from the start, all of their shows gave you the option closed caption and audio description. From
a lot of the new stuff, a lot like this day and age, just about I would say 100% of the stuff that comes out at some point has audio description. Even like the stuff on HBO, it's not called HBO Max, it's just called Max now. The stuff on Max even has audio description on it, and then some TVs. There's a show I watch on BET Plus. The show itself, it doesn't have audio description on there, but somehow my TV audio describes the scenes.
Okay,
I don't know how or what does it.
So before we get cut off here, because we're coming to the end of our time. So this is a message to the Paramounts, to the MGMs, to all the producers of films out there. Just do us a favor as a blind community, folks. And just include the audio description in the original production. Please.
Yeah.
Because listen, we got money too, and we're paying for it. We want to watch it with our kids.
When it's a $200 million production, the $20,000 it costs to put audio description in, it's not going to break you.
No.
No. Because listen, like I said, we're going to the movies.
Yep.
We out here. We want to watch it. We want to watch it too, and we go. And we spend money. If y'all build it, we'll come.
I will say this. I do want to thank all the movie theaters that are accessible for the visually impaired. They do have audio described and the headphones. So if you're blind and you go to the show, you still can get my $7.99.
And I want to thank the Netflixes and the Disney Pluses and the Apple TVs. And
he said $7.99. What's
Lord, I know.
I don't know where the $7.99.
I mean, you know, $7.99. I'm going to the matinee. I don't know what y'all do.
But I want to thank all the streaming services and all the companies that are spending the money to put the audio description on. But Miramax and all you folks, spend that extra $20,000.
Oh, at my house, you've got audio description for me and closed captioning for my wife.
Yeah, because we all got to take our girls to the show too.
If you'd like to join us, there's always a seat for you in booth 6 at the International Blind Cafe, Discord server, and Facebook group.